Harpoon is an ability that was barely used in Albion Online, and it's most famously known for being used for ganking. And if you know anything about SPI balancing, you know that SPI typically keeps nerfing ganking abilities to the ground. But now Harpoon is being used on almost every kite comp. But why? Harpoon has had a flourishing history and has been a huge influence in the meta, providing a different way to engage, and is now widely frowned upon by the small-scale community. A good chunk of people would probably tell you that the Kidnap meta is their least favorite meta as the result of frustrating deaths they have with it.
Of course.
And in this video, I will be explaining the art of Kidnap and why it is such a good win condition. So first, the Harpoon itself is somewhat simple. You first pick a target, then mage stand up backwards, and hope that your enemy is sleeping and gets pulled by it. Anyone can pull this off. The base idea is easy, but the execution, however, is a bit more complicated. So how do we execute a proper Kidnap engage? For a proper Kidnap execution, these are the main 5 roles that have to come into play: Spirit Hunter, Pole Hammer, Hand of Justice, Rootbound, and Great Arcane. And looking at their main abilities, in order for the Spirit Hunter to actually harpoon the target, first a Pole Hammer has to stun or hold the enemy down, and once he gets the harpoon off, the Great Arcane freezes the supporting tanks to deny the Kidnap from getting any cleanses or support, and while the target is in midair, then the Rootbound throws a polymorph on him to deny any personal abilities. Once the target arrives in the backline, Hodge then spins him around and everyone hits on the Hodge. In theory, this sounds super hard to counter, but this technique, however, is very easy to deny. When you find yourself fighting a Zerg who uses Kidnap as their main win condition, all you have to do is to tell your battle mounts to face tank all the incoming harpoons, and if you don't have one, then any Arcane can face tank them with their Arcane Q. Although you have to be very careful not to get stunned by the Pole Hammer, which is the reason you also have to have consistent guard runes rotated under your front line. However, if your teammate manages to get kidnapped, you have to react fast and instantly blink into the enemy to support him, and hope they don't CC you before you get to help them. Now, here you have to be very careful in order not to get baited by the enemy, since sometimes some Zergs only kidnap to bait the rest of the enemy to fall for an engage that we in our guild call the Nico Special, where you try to kidnap the enemy caller to make the rest of the enemy panic and line up to get G8 or CC'd into a full wipe. There you go.
Why you my DPS walking front when I say need help? I don't know.
Now, aside from the mechanics, the way you play Kidnap really is not heavily relied upon the Harpoon itself. There's so many ways you can pull off the same concept with abilities like triple kick or fast spike or anyone with a purity rope. But for the sake of the length of this video, I'll primarily keep this focused on the Harpoon version. So when should you actually use this technique? Well, it's completely up to you. A good rule of thumb is to do it whenever the fight gets stale, or whenever the enemy feels like they're not aware. Timing here is really important, since you really don't want your Harpoon to kidnap anyone while you're trying to kite away. This can be very bad, especially against the Brawl Zerg. Against Brawl, however, the best case scenario is to kidnap when you're just sieging them on a castle, since a lot of the times Brawl will just wait for you to push them in the Lord Room and fishing the enemy without pushing them just grants free kills, while making them frustrated and hopefully overcommit into you. And thanks to this technique, we've been able to win fights that we shouldn't be able to win with our comp, just because of one ability. It's undoubtedly extremely toxic and funny thing to use, and a nightmare if you don't know how to properly deal with it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for listening again, and a big shout out to the Kidnap Jesus Arefa for helping me make this video. I'm sure there are a lot more clips of kidnapping in his channel, so if you want more content, make your way over there and catch you all in the next video.